something our student board member frequently does.
I see a Caroline connected, but I'm not sure.
Of course. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. We have, next is approval of agenda. And I believe, Dr. McFetridge, do we have a recommended change? Do I ask for approval first or a recommended change first?
I would be happy to recommend the change first. There is an agenda item that is a personnel item, and we need that personnel item removed. Let me find that. I'm just
I believe that was item 4B on the consent agenda that we wanted to move to the end of our agenda, which would make it 5D.
Staff would recommend that. Yes, indeed.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda with the caveat we pull item 4B and place it at 5D?
So moved.
Thank you, Sophia. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1.
And before we move, can I make a little announcement about our interpretation?
Oh, please do.
So we have interpretation services for our meeting. And if you want interpretation in Spanish, we ask you to please change your language. At the bottom of your screen, you will have the options. You can change it to English if you're listening in English, or you can change it to Spanish if you would like to listen in Spanish. Now I'm gonna say it in Spanish. Hola, buenas noches. Tenemos interpretación para esta junta. Si usted quiere escuchar la junta en español, por favor cambie su idioma en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Está un icono que dice interpretación. Ahí cámbiele a español y va a poder escuchar a Josefina que está haciendo la interpretación en español. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is 3A, public comments. And I believe we have one member from the public who would like to speak. That would be Brianna.
Good evening.
Brianna, I would just remind you that because we do have the translation, you might pause as you're speaking.
Okay, let me close my door then too, so you don't hear my kids, because that might get confusing.
Okay. Sure.
We asked them to raise their hands, Josefina. We have one hand raised.
I'm back. Okay. Thank you, school board members and Superintendent McFetridge. I am speaking on behalf of community members. We together, I want to make it clear, we were not reached out by any group. This was a community members wanting to help our teachers and seeing what we could do. The school year is upon us. As parents, we are struggling to grasp what the next few days, months, even entire school year are going to look like. On top of all the unknowns this year is the quiet yet constant threat that our teachers may go on strike. Our teachers who teach our children, who provide stability when it is hard to find, and who have done more for our students than we will ever understand when everything around our kids shut down. We understand it is difficult to ask for a raise in this climate. Public and private employees have their wages frozen, some already taking cuts. Many more will have their pay cut over the next 12 months. The thing that makes teachers different is that they've been facing pay freezes and unacceptably low wages for decades, especially in CUSD. And now teachers are being asked to radically and rapidly change how they do their job and go to work in what is arguably the most likely place to contract COVID-19. We continue to hear, yes, our teachers are underpaid, they deserve more, but we just don't have the funds. We disagree. All of us signed here are knowledgeable of our district's budget, and we all stand by the quote unquote risk of giving our teachers a raise. We are community members who were on the financial advisory committee, who led the Measure I campaign, who attend school board meetings, are involved in our PTOs, advocate for better state funding, and more. We are not supporting a raise without understanding what that means. If in fact our budget stays negative, as our 3-year forecast shows, then we will show up again to help figure it out, whether it be with cuts, a supplemental parcel tax campaign, advocating for better state funding, or more. We make decisions every day not knowing what the future holds. But we make those decisions with the mindset that we need to invest in our today to ensure a brighter tomorrow. To not do so is to neglect the foundation on which that future rests. It is in that same spirit that we must invest in our teachers today. They are worth it. Our kids are worth it. Please let us move into this year able to maintain our full focus on helping students thrive despite the significant and unprecedented challenges of this pandemic. Thank you. These are the signed: Abby Carpenter, Alan Smith, Andrea Rosenthal, Angela Holsgrove, Angela Hunt, Beth Easter, Beth Gillis, Bill Stalder, Brianna LaFontaine, Brian Banks, Carolyn Stockman, Christiane Springers, Christina Tackett, Christine Catout, Claire Conlon, Karina DeWald, Dan Littlefield, David Gorn, David Rakowski, David Ron, David Smithson, David Tackett, Deborah Mendez-Jones, Emily Potter, Emily Barber, Frank Orell, Gabby Carpenter, Gabby Davila, Gabe Rosenthal, Galen Schmidt, Glenda Mahoney, Haley Peterson, Holly Duvall, Janelle Magnuson, Jason Gedros, Janine Gore, Chef Conlon, Jennifer Gedros, Jerome Duvall, Jim Kelly, Joanne Rakowski, Jody Miller, Johanna Kelly, John Dickey, Julie Ron, Justin Stockman, Kara Damer, Kate Dickey, Keith Jobson, Kelly Gillis, Kendra Holland, Kent Miller, Kevin LaFontaine, Kimberly Carpenter, Krista Nybaum, Laura Sanders, Lauren Rossman, Lewis Rossman, Lauren Shuffton, Lucas Kelly, Mark Alfaro, Martina Mooney, Matt Barber, Matt Jones, Michelle Schmidt, Michelle Spencer, Molly Banks, Monica Orell, Mose E. Spratt, Nick Catout, Nicole Smithson, Phil Gordon, Rachel DeWald, Rebecca Rare, Reagan Faust, Richard Hunt, Rob Carpenter, Roya Malakay, Ryan Springers, Sean Faust, Sherry Gordon, Steve Moody, Tristan Holsgrove, Victoria Lacerda, Virginia Sutherland, and Yasmin E. Spratt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brianna. Next up are our employee organization reports. Do we have a CUTA representative this evening? Hi, Sean, go ahead.
Hi. Board members, President Hines, Superintendent McFetridge.
We lost your sound, Sean.
All right. From the top.
Thank you.
Board members, President Hines, Superintendent McFetridge, district leadership. My name is Sean Reardon, and I am a co-president of the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. I'd like to start with a thank you to Brianna LaFontaine for those powerful words of support. On Monday, we had our back to school welcome, and I would like to read the statement that I made to our teachers and to the site administration. I'd like the board to hear these words, the students, our students, the community. So here it goes. Hello, fellow CUSD educators, teachers, counselors, classified staff, site administration, and district leadership. Welcome back for the 2021 academic years. Many years ago, in fact, so long ago that Principal Nazar's daughter, Haley, was a student, John Carey was a basketball coach, Andy Boysen and Deanna Rocha were both teachers. This is something that happened to me and I'd like to share it with you. Sculpture class had just been approved for the A through G requirements, and it was received with great enthusiasm. In this class, I had the valedictorian, the drum majorette, the lead of the play, and the tennis star, just to name a few, in this exceptional class of diverse students. It was a powerhouse, and they were great. Oftentimes a great pain in the neck, demanding, questioning, skeptical, smart. These students kept me on my toes every day, every moment of class. Well, on a Friday in December, after nearly a semester of a wrestling match between 30 teenagers and one teacher, I found that my class had been receiving an advance notice of the trivia questions. And our number 2 standing was in question. It was due to cheating. Pride, hubris. I hit the roof. I pounded the table. I stomped my feet. I lectured. And on Monday, when I came back to school, I saw a class of 30 students looking at me with arms crossed and penetrating eyes. I realized that I had made a big mistake. So I turned to my department head and my most important mentor teacher, Larkin Evans, and I explained my predicament. She replied honestly, well, you made a mistake. You did not handle that well, and you've lost your students. But there is a way to get them back. She said to me, you must earn them back with your very best lesson, your best presentation, your best demonstration, and your most engaging materials. Then Larkin said the words that really have stuck with me. All students want the very best from their teachers, and you'll bring them back into the fold with powerful instruction. She was right. Well, at this point in August, it's clear that we have lost many of our students due to COVID-19 and distance learning. No one is at fault. The growing pains of spring, the rapid transition to remote learning in spring are behind us. Now is the moment that we re-engage our students through our best lessons, lessons that come from hard work, heavy lifting, and the deepest dig. We, as teachers, must make remote instruction engaging, productive, and positive. We owe it to our students, their families, the community, and ourselves. Our professional integrity requires we make remote learning work. I would like to end with an appeal to the newest teachers of CUSD. I'm the co-president of the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association, but there is no me in union. There is an I, and there is a you, and there is most definitely a we. The CUTA is an effective, powerful voice for the teachers and counselors of this school district. We need your participation to maintain this powerful voice. To all new teachers, counselors, and returning teachers who are not yet members, I urge you to reach out to your site representatives to join the Cabrillo Unified Teachers Association. We together can make this year a success. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Do we have a CSEA representative tonight? Good evening, Stig.
There we go. There I am. Hey. Good evening, Superintendent McPatridge, Board President Hines, board members, and staff, the administrative staff at Cabrillo Unified School District. So the school year beginning to start here. Many staff started their first day here today, and it's a challenging time we're going through here now, and going to start working remotely. The staff have been really busy to make sure that everything has been cleaned, that we all are ready here. The IT department, as I'm a part of, as you all know, have been working, providing technology now so we can do distance learning. with laptops and to communications and all what that means. There are going to be some changes for our board, for our members in CSEA, support staff. It's not the start of the school year is not going to be normal as it usually do. And for myself, this is going to be my 12th year. So this is really going to be a new way how we start the schools. I want just to wish everyone who starts working now and the students a good year, and keep yourself healthy. Keep the guidance from CD with the state to make sure that we don't get too many infected. We already had a couple of cases in our district, so I hope that we will keep us safe and yeah, for this virus. I also want to just a quick note about you see here, yeah, they started also to deliver Chromebooks to students here today. They delivered at, I think Cunha started the high school today too. And we all going to get that going here on Monday, and looking forward to all this. And yeah, I wish everyone a good and happy and healthy year. Thank you.
Thank you, Stig. Next are board member reports.
Hey, Kim.
Yes.
Didn't we have a comment that you were going to read? A public comment to read, sorry, before we go on.
It's for 5A, so it's attached to
Okay.
an agenda item. So yes, the short
Okay.
answer is yes, but we'll read it in context of 5A.
I thought it was about school reopening. Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know. I saw 5A opening of schools, and that was
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks. So for public comment, I'm sorry, for board comments, I'd like to say welcome back to school. It's definitely not our normal kickoff, but it's always exciting at the beginning of the year. And I want to wish all of our teachers and all of our students the very best. It won't be ideal for anyone, but please know that I sincerely appreciate all that the teachers are doing, and know that the students are in the very best hands, because we have the very best educators here on the Coast side. So thank you for all you are doing. I also wanted to put a shout out to Jill Jacobson and Boys and Girls Club. I know behind the scenes that it's not just school kicking off, but the attention to trying to set up hubs for high school and middle school students. And I know there was some activity behind the scenes for consideration for elementary hubs. And so if people are actually interested in that, that's still a possibility. I know there's self-organizing that is going on with families in terms of pods, and people are having to be really creative. But if you see a definitive need, you or your family, there are other groups, and we can try to put you in contact with some of these other organizations. So with that, I will pass the baton to another board member. So again, welcome back, everyone. Mary Beth, would you like to go next?
Sure. Just to explain before I get started, it's a surfboard. My daughter's taken up surfing. I thought I could do it too. Apparently, people from Iowa are not meant to surf. People keep telling me, but I'm still gonna keep trying. It can't get much worse. I've got a pulled hamstring now and a black eye, but I'm gonna keep trying, because it's always hard at first, right? It takes time. So, so far it's been a big fail, but I'm gonna keep trying. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the county and what's going on. There's a organization called CSBA. It's the California School Board Association. And I was on a meeting with them today, and I just wanted to say that it was really heartening for me to be part of that and really see what's going on. They've been doing meetings weekly to kind of keep us in the loop. So to see what's going on with other districts, see how they're struggling, see how things are happening, it doesn't make us feel, make me feel so alone, that we're in this together. And it was very heartening also to see how much is going on for kids at the state level, the county level, as well as our district level, which we see everyone working really hard. So I thought that was interesting to see. And one of the speakers today used the word exciting for all this. And I thought it kind of caught me off guard, because I was like, exciting? I've heard chaos, and I've heard, it's hard and it's going to be this and that, but I hadn't heard exciting. And I thought about that, and I was like, it is exciting. This is a completely different direction we're going to go with education. It's going to be hard, and it is going to be chaotic, but it is exciting. And what will we take from this when we end? Will things be better? Will we find new ways to reach kids that we've had a hard time reaching before? It's a huge change for education. So I kind of took that to heart and just thought, this is another way to look at it, because it is going to be hard, but we got to think of it. What's the positive? What's the optimistic side? And it's exciting, and we may learn some stuff as we go along here. And it did help me see we're not alone. I've seen some other school boards going through some really big trials and tribulations. So it's been nice to have that connection, and I appreciate that they're doing it. And just see so many people helping our kids. And it's going to be a struggle to get where we want to be with all this, but together I think we can get it done. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Sophia? You're muted, Sophia.
Sorry about that. It's hard to believe we're here just a few days away from the first day of school in the transformative world of COVID-19. It continues to be a busy time staying in touch with the evolving situation, as Mary Beth described, through the state and the county webinars that we've had, like pretty much a few every week, with Dr. Moreau earlier this week and with CSBA today, on returning to school, distance learning, keeping up with the public health data, what's going on with testing infrastructure, what's going on with the science, as well as importantly, what's going on with the broader socioeconomic situation that we're operating in. So lots of reading, lots of webinar stuff to just stay on top of the broader picture, as that is really important context for how we operate and how we can make the most of our situation. And I did not mention this to you, Mary Beth, but I've been thinking this is exciting myself as well. And it's kind of how I think of this time as well. It really has been really exciting to see, especially over the last couple of weeks, really all aspects of our entire school community coming together in this all hands on deck spirit that's really gelling to kick off the year, not only in spite of the challenges, but taking advantage of some of those opportunities that the crisis is offering us to shift. What I keep coming back to is this shift from bringing our students to education to bringing education to our students. And this is most obvious in terms of the digital technology and the remote learning approaches teachers and staff are developing, implementing, and no doubt will continue to refine over the coming weeks and months. But it's also reshaping a lot of our structures and how we provide students with nutrition essential for too many of them, how we manage our administrative procedures. I could just name a few things that I've just it's just great to see that we're finally able to apply for free and reduced price lunch, which also helps us obtain potential additional state funding through our website, where families can give their income information in a confidential, secure way without just pieces of paper flowing around. I think that's amazing. Also to have district and school information, including event listings, school website links at your fingertips through your app, the CUSD app. If anyone hasn't downloaded it, I highly recommend it. It's always a work in progress in terms of the refining the content, but typically when you have things like this, it kind of creates a need to continually improve that. And I think we're in a really great place. as well as our websites. And I'll give big kudos to all the schools for doing a really amazing job keeping things up to date with videos, letters, information. It's like up to the minute. I see it going up, and it's amazing. And I have to say, kudos to James Barnes and the team. And tomorrow I get to go to the high school to do registration outdoors, which I actually think beats being in a gym with a billion people waiting in line for an hour anyway. So there's just some kind of silver linings in terms of kind of this disruptive event and how it just gets us to think a little bit differently and hopefully better. So all that said, it's critical, of course, in the coming months to ensure our return to school indeed has equity at its core, and that we focus on our students every step of the way. This, of course, can be achieved through major initiatives like professional development, but it also applies it to more subtler ways, such as connecting the dots for our students and families to facilitate their experience and engaging with their education, while also maximizing everyone's safety. And I'll put a shout out again to the high school, Half Moon Bay High School, for pulling together the registration process. One subtle aspect of it was that they're pulling families together by last name, not by grade. And so when you go, you can just presumably go in for all your kids at once, which is good for the convenience and time perspective for families, but also in terms of safety of having people on site only once. So that's subtle things like that in terms of constantly thinking about how we do what we do. I think we can realize a lot of really great opportunities. So we must all in everything we do remember, oftentimes the students and families who need us most are the least vocal. And that's extremely important for us all to remember. And I know we know it, but I try to constantly remind myself of that every day. I had the privilege of dropping by the food bank, the Alas Food Bank last Saturday, and was able to speak with a number of families and just sharing key information like school starting, it's all going to be online, how they can get more information, et cetera. It's hardest for families who are facing these existential crises in terms of food and housing and security as urgent needs. So it goes a long way, I think, not only in terms of sharing information with, taking that extra step to share information, but also just creating that culture of, we're in this together, in this storm together, even if we're in slightly different boats. So make no mistake, the coming months will be messy and at times super stressful. There'll be disagreements, there'll be unproductive behaviors. That's just human nature. But that makes it all important that we mind the temptation to judge each other and instead really adopt that mindset of collaborative leadership, no matter what our job, if it's being a principal, a parent, a teacher, a clerk, IT technician, or multiple roles of the above. There will be many black eyes and many pulled hamstrings, no doubt, for all of us, but we will get up on that surfboard. And we also know our kids, as Emma is watching Mary Beth, watch us from those experiences, and they're watching and they're learning from us even when, and perhaps especially when, we're not necessarily thinking that they are. So setting that good example will be a huge part of helping them get great results. So I am excited. I know it's going to be hard. We're gonna have those black eyes, but I say school year 2021, let's bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you. Lizette.
Sorry, you caught me off guard. I'm trying to help Spanish-speaking families access the Spanish feature. It's not as easy as it sounds. I don't see the option.
Okay, so if I can explain, it's on the bottom of the Zoom window where it says interpretation.
I don't see it. And the two families I'm talking to, they don't see that feature.
So I'll just tell you what I see is on my screen. It has participants, chat, share screen, record, and then interpretation. If you click on that, it was going to give you other choices. So I don't know if there's another different view of Zoom. You're looking.
Remember to mouse over it too to see it.
There may also be a little circle that says EN or SP, but it should be like a little globe.
No.
You need to move your cursor to the bottom of the screen, and it will.
I get it. But honestly, for me, my only options are the mute, the video, the participation, the question answers, chat, share, and then leave. That's it.
Ah,
I
No, no entiendo, no sé cómo ayudarte, pero ahorita me está grabando, pero a ver, ¿por qué no lo intentas otra vez?
a la izquierda del botón que quiere decir leave, es un otro botón, interpretación.
No hay nada, ¿verdad que sí? Inténtalo y ahorita te hablo para atrás, ¿ok? Adiós.
Kim, Sean, if I can, I can share my screen.
Sure.
See where is the button, and
sure.
so have my phone. I don't know if you can see that. If you are requesting, here is more. You click that, and then you change it to language interpretation if you're on your phone. But if you're on a computer, let me share my screen, and then I'll show you where it is.
They are on a computer.
Speak in Spanish for them, yeah?
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's Iowa.
Doesn't let me, I'm gonna stop because it doesn't let me big.
Mija, ¿ya intentaste otra vez? No ves, mira, Rosie, can you put your screen back on?
Can you see my screen now?
¿Puedes ver la pantalla?
I'm sharing, but I don't see on my screen, I don't see the whole
I
thing.
don't see
Sorry.
either. On my screen, I see what you see, Rosie. So where is the option?
It's at the bottom.
Uh-huh. Where?
I mean, sorry, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna take a picture.
I have 3 families who are not able to get on. And I'm getting several phone calls right now.
Okay, so I've just gotten a text from another teacher who says we do not have same features as viewers. I do not have interpretation options. Maybe because it's a Chromebook, maybe because it, yeah, so somehow that we haven't worked out the views for participants.
So maybe a suggestion then would be if we know it's Laura Cepeda, if we make her a panelist and then make the other 2 parents a panelist, they may have the interpretation option because maybe it's not available for attendees. Entonces, señora Cepeda, no sé dónde está, ya se salió. A ver dónde está. ¿O ya la movió?
Leticia, it might not be that because Lisette is also a panelist and she doesn't see that. So I think it's gonna be that they're connecting with a Chromebook or they're using an old version of Zoom. They have to upgrade their Zoom so they can, that's what I know, they need to upgrade to their Zoom so they can change their language.
Y sabe que le voy a hablar a los 3 padres que están aquí, que disculpen porque sí tenemos dificultades ahorita para la traducción, pero no sé ahorita cómo podemos resolver el problema.
Leticia, no te pueden escuchar porque algunos no pueden poner acceso a la traducción y otros padres definitivamente nada más no se están pudiendo conectar con el teléfono. Pero ahorita estoy tratando de ayudar a 3 diferentes mamás que están tratando de conectarse y desafortunadamente esa opción que dice que está en la pantalla no está en la pantalla. Igual yo estoy usando un Chromebook y tampoco no es una opción que yo tengo en mi pantalla.
Y tal vez es lo que Rose dijo.
Ahorita yo te puedo dar la información de las 3 mamás y Si gusta.
Y yo puedo, si me da la información, entonces podemos nosotros mañana repasar la junta de la mesa directiva o podemos nosotros hablar y tener un horario, a ver un día que ellos puedan y repasar la junta que estamos grabando. Por supuesto, los padres pueden quedarse aquí, pero también si yo mañana puedo hablarles y a ver cuándo ellos están disponibles a venir, porque lo que, I'm sorry, what we did with our, because they can't understand me, right? Lisette, that's what you said. They can't understand me regardless because two of them are not connected. One of them is. Yes, Lisette?
Yes. Yes.
And so we can socially distance at the district, and I can review the presentation, and we can set up to see which community liaison can help us in interpreting, and I can set that up.
Okay. I don't know what to say at this point.
Okay. Well, obviously we've got some work to do with the Zoom and getting everybody at the same with the same view on the windows. So my apologies, sincere apologies to those people who can't hear us in their own language. Freya, go ahead, Lisette.
Sorry. Also, really quick. I don't know if this is not the right time to say this, but I also, if it's possible, we definitely need to fix some of these glitches because I've been really trying so hard to get people to participate, and when it's not even in a language that they understand, it's like it's almost like it's pointless, right? And also, if we can also have the agenda, not the entire packet, not the 200 and something pages, but just the agenda in Spanish, and also the comment form, if that's something that we could do, so that they could also have access as every other parent to write in comments and participate live on the.
Thank you, Lizette. We will work on those pieces.
Just so everybody knows, at the last board meeting, it was requested that we provide interpretation for the board meeting, and we set that up. But of course, it's all about functionality of people being able to have that upgraded version. So we'll have to advertise that. And to Ms. Cortez's point, she did reach out to Rosie and me to talk about whether or not we could get the agenda translated into Spanish. And there is a Google function that will help us do that. Of course, we're actually doing that when most districts don't, but we feel a value to do that. And so we will continue to work on that so that we can easily show people how to translate the agenda into Spanish, since it is such a dominant language. But there are applications for that. We're just going to have to reach out to families and teach them how to do that.
Thanks. Freya.
Yeah, thank you, Sean, for trying to get the Spanish access, and Lizette for continually bringing it up. I do think it's very important, and I'm glad that we're making progress. Probably one of those things that we'll have multi-tiered solutions to figure out how it works for everybody. I think it also illustrates how we're all feeling in this time as we head into remote learning next week. All the teachers, the students, the parents, figuring out what it is that we have to do, trying to figure out technology, trying to mesh different platforms, figure out what thing we're using. And I just want to say it's hard times, and I hope, and I know that people sometimes feel stressed about it, and I just want to make sure that we're all kind of being conscious and aware of that, I know there's some anxiety because it's also not the normal. It's not the first day of school like we normally have it. I know I've been hearing that from my children. So I just want to remind everyone to treat each other with, kindness, to have patience and open-minded communication, that none of us have the right answers, but we have to kind of have confidence and faith that we're all working together to try and find them, even in this situation like what just happened tonight. It's just an illustration of how there is still so much more work to do. And each time we think we've solved something, there then become other issues that we have to address. So I just want to ask, our whole community that we work together on that. I wanted to give a special thanks to the teachers and the staff that have already started working, to the students who will be coming back next week, to the parents, to the community members that are supporting all of us and trying to make this transition, again, in a never before been done situation. A pandemic 100 years ago was maybe similar. I just wanted to welcome Caroline Dodd as our new student rep board member. So pleased to have you here and look forward to the next year. And hopefully at some point we'll have in-person meetings, but who knows? And I also want to thank Brianna and all the other community members for your comments, and also thank again the teachers for all that they're doing. And we really support you and want to be able to find some way of making sure that you understand that we support you in a financial way if the budget will allow. So hopefully there'll be some good steps moving forward on that in the direction. So I just want to wish everybody a happy new school year, and hopefully people can find those new school traditions that can occur in this remote time. So thank you all for all of your hard work.
Thank you, Freya. Caroline.
Oh, can you hear me? All right. So should I just read them like each school off one by one with the report? Okay. So first up we have Cunha. Cunha says they are deep in registration with the parent and student orientation as well as staff training, and they are looking forward to launching their first day of remote school on Monday. Next up we have Kings Mountain Elementary, and they are also deep in parent-student orientation, and they plan to have a meet and greet on and they're looking forward to Mountain Elementary, and and they are also working on staff training as well as launching their first remote day of school, and they are coordinating pickup of Chromebooks, workbooks, and school supplies materials for the first day and many days of the remote learning school year. Next, we have Fairlawn View. Fairlawn View, much like the other schools right now, they are incredibly busy with the start of the school year, and they're learning lots of new programs and tools to help keep students engaged in remote learning this fall. Even though they are a bit nervous about the school year ahead, they are very excited to see their students and to provide the best education possible. El Granada has been busy as well, getting ready to start the new school year. Staff is new. They're on the school year and they're learning lots of new programs. Year ahead, they're very excited to see their students this school year. Staff is participating in remote learning training, preparing materials, collaborating with principal, and they're looking forward to meeting students and families on Monday, August 17th. But close to the school they share a campus with Pelositos High, and they are very proud to serve the coastside community. They have a variety of students, which includes parents of CUSD children, as well as employees of the region who are looking forward to improve both Spanish and English. In addition, they serve recent immigrants to our community, prior UCSD students who will move to learn high school equivalency, HSE for short, and our senior citizens who are also grandparents of CUSD students. Hatch, teachers receive professional development for Google Classroom and Google Meet. Their staff is working really hard to reach out to the family and to provide essential information for remote learning. Teachers will be contacting parents, let them know about their instructional schedule and online class expectations to prepare students for success. And a huge acknowledgement to all the staff, to the Hatch staff, for their hard work and dedication to our students and families. And they're also looking forward to the first day of remote learning on Monday, August 17th. And they welcome all families and students for the new school year. And then Half Moon Bay High School, we're currently busy with registration and student parent orientation today and tomorrow. And as mentioned earlier, they're doing it in like your last name function to help the process run more smoothly. And we're also looking our first virtual day back.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Sean.
I just want to take time and ask Lizette if she wants to say something other than what she already shared.
Sure.
I passed. I'm still trying to help people. I got one already connected, and I'm still working on the others. So there's two of them. I just one more, but right now I think this is more important. So I'll pass for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette. Well, I'll just speak to this because this is a teachable moment. At the last meeting, Ms. Cortez in particular brought up the idea of seeking out interpretation, and in Spanish in particular, because it's such a dominant language in the district, and we agree with it wholeheartedly and have been working, as you know, with our English Language Development Master Plan, and last year with the first Hispanic, Latino, Latinx Heritage Month proclamation. And this is a focus for us as a district for equity, and the whole board wants to do that. We want to do that. Rosie Acosta has worked hard to do that. Josefina Infanzon is there to translate, and yet there is work yet, I think, to engage families so that now we've got the technology correct that we teach families how to do this. So I think it is a teachable moment. It is illustrative of the fact that we're using new tools now. So I just want to pause and say that. So we will continue to work on that, but we do have the interpretation function. I know that I was at the Half Moon Bay Review town hall 2 weekends ago, and they were just doing it. And I know Brianna LaFontaine, who spoke at the top of the hour, had mentioned that they were just trying it at El Granada PTO. So this is new practice, and because we are in board meetings where we don't have interpretation in our headphones available, this is a change in practice for us, but I think we will continue to work until we get there. But it will take education now that we've figured out the tools for our families, and we will work on that. Okay, another shameless pitch, because one of the board members texted me, thank you, Freya, and said, can I mention census comments? Absolutely. I mentioned a couple months ago that I want to encourage people to take and participate in the census. I know there are some concerns sometimes for people about taking the census because they think it will have impacts on them. It is protected information. There are no impacts. I will just say on the same notion, if you apply for free and reduced meals or any kind of services through the district, those are not something that wind up putting you on a list. For those who have concerns about that because of the public charge or immigration concerns, we want to encourage everybody that that school business is separate from immigration and is protected and doesn't fall under the public charge. I do think it is very important for everybody to participate in the census so we can get counted, so we all can get counted no matter who we are, where we're from, what language we speak. It doesn't matter. Everybody should participate in the census so we can get represented in the halls of Congress and in the state, in the government, in the federal government. So I just want to put that out there. Okay, let me go to my prepared comments, or the scribbles I have next to my computer. First of all, I want to give appreciation for our students. Caroline Dodge, I just was able to have a Zoom call with her today, and I want to welcome her as our new student board member. Thank you so much for representing students in the district. I want to give appreciation for our families. I've been fielding a lot of emails to families. I know all our staff have, and we know this is a very challenging time normally right before school starts and stressful, but this like no other time. I think all the board members have spoken to that. To our staff, same thing. I remember the first years that I taught, I did not sleep well the night before the first day of class. I often had a pit in my stomach. It still happens to me. It's performative anxiety. It's stage fright. And so for our staff, I really appreciate what they're doing to try to come to the table and try to come back to classrooms to instruct people. And to our board, who have shown such resilience in such trying times to be an elected leader during this time. I have such sympathy for them. for all of us, for all my brothers and sisters in the world. I have compassion for and empathy for all of us, because this is a very trying time for us, but I do think it provides us an opportunity to continue to operate and identify challenges and to make improvements. At the top of the hour, you know, Sean Reardon spoke, and he shared the same statements and the same comments that he shared on Monday morning when we had professional development. And I just want to speak to that a little bit too. I so appreciate the spirit and the tone of partnership and commitment that Sean Reardon has shown in those comments. We've been working with our CUTA representatives in mediation and also in negotiations over an MOU. And tonight the board will be presented an MOU. It's been shared with them privately already as part of negotiations, but I did not want to show the public that document until such time as it was voted on by CUTA yesterday. And I will say that I was informed today that CUTA voted to approve that MOU that guides our guidelines for coming back to school. So the board will vote on that tonight, and if the board approves that, then we will be issuing a press release. And now I can connect this to what Brianna LaFontaine said. Brianna, we totally agree. We value our teachers. We do know that we've heard in the past that we can't afford it. And I do hear from families saying, figure out how to afford it. And one of your colleagues, former PTO president at Fairlawn View, Kelly Hoffman-Davis, a couple sessions ago, asked us to take a deeper dive and to all of us change our thinking and to restart. Sean Reardon often says reset. And so we have done that, and we've gone back to mediation. And tomorrow a press release will be put out. And I don't want to negotiate in public, but I do want to say that I so appreciate the collaboration and the participation and the fact that we're working to mediation to better understand one another, and we are confident and optimistic that will help us. So I do want to appreciate the CUTA team, Sean Reardon, Kathleen Wall, the whole negotiations team, all our CUTA members. I do want to appreciate Stig Lin as CSEA president and the efforts he's shown with his team and representing his members. And I also want to acknowledge again that last year was very difficult. Last year was very difficult because we had a budget crisis, and it was very difficult because of negotiations, and it was very difficult. And then COVID happened, and I think that gave us a lot of perspective. And I know this summer I have personally looked deep inside my own self and said, okay, I want to start the new year with growth mindset and with an idea that it's my job as a leader in this district to listen to people and to understand their pain and to show empathy and to show compassion and to show patience, and hopefully to allow people, if they would, to practice forgiveness with me, because I know that at times I've been very stern and some would say harsh in my comments about that can't work. And I need to change my mindset. So, okay, how do we make this work? So I just want to put that out there. And I think I've appreciated CUTA so much, particularly working with Kathleen Wall over the last week, and how much work we've had to put on the weekend and in the evenings, and Sean Reardon and I and Kathleen all kind of emailing Sunday night. I really appreciate their commitment and their growth mindset. And I hope to model that same growth mindset for us to say, we can get better. We have challenges, we have problems, but we can get better. So with Brianna LaFontaine or anybody that's commented on this, we are trying to work at that. And I'm so heartened and I'm so optimistic. It may turn rough again, but I'm going to continue to try to be compassionate and civil and fact-based and understand people's pain at this time. Families too, when families have said, you should open the schools or you should close the schools, I have to listen, I have to respond with compassion. I feel for everyone, knowing that we're all impacted with this. Tomorrow, like I said, we will issue a press release from CUSD talking about the MOU that will guide us in remote learning with CUTA, and also the district's confidence and optimism about using mediations to help us find resolution through impasse. So I do believe that with experts, with a mediator, with financial experts, we will be able to do that. And I hope that we can continue working at that table. And I'll just let everybody know that we will go back to the table September 11th with CUTA, and I'm looking forward to it, especially knowing how well we've worked together on this MOU. I want to point out that one aspect of leadership that I'm often reminded of is being able to acknowledge our challenges and propose strategies to overcome them. And one of the strategies that I've just laid out for you is when we see a challenge, we try to work to solve it. And when it doesn't work, we go back to it and we can keep trying, that we keep having persistence, that we keep having resilience, that we keep showing compassion, and that we keep trying. And this requires sometimes speaking to our vulnerabilities. And so I want to just acknowledge that during this time, we're in a very judgy business. You know, I mean, schools are about getting grades, and we do get the state and the feds always telling us you're doing well in this regard, not well in this regard. And so there's a lot of judgment built into that. So I just want to say, I want to listen for understanding and not listen to judge or listen to respond back and say, this is how it's got to be. And when I've done that in the past, I think it's hurt people. And so because they've said they didn't feel heard. So I just think that it's important for me to hear, and I want everybody to hear that I'm actually actively trying to listen, and I think we all are. I think this change in mindset probably comes from perspective, because we know that COVID-19 as a global pandemic puts us all in a place of anxiety and stress and concern for our safety, our physical safety, our health, the safety and well-being of family members and friends and people we don't know. I know it will take time for us to work through this going forward. And I just want to remind people that, you know, in this time, I think we can continue to take a breath and to slow down and to listen for understanding. And I hope everybody hears that. One thing that I really think I need to speak about tonight, just to frame sort of what you're going to hear about with the return to school, is that number one for me, and I said this at our professional development on Monday, is and I said it at Hatch PTO 2 nights ago, I think, we have to have a commitment to each other's safety and to each other's health and to each other's humanity at this point. And that is our first and foremost goal. We're not going to be able to do the jobs we need to do to make kids college and career ready until such point as we can get kids and staff members and all of us, families, the community, feeling safe in our decision making. There's been a lot of talk about should schools be open or not. If anybody's been reading the news, I think you all heard about Georgia and how they opened schools and 900 students were sent out, and now they have dozens, if not hundreds of people quarantined. The last thing that we want to do is come back too early and threaten someone's health. We've already seen people get sick who are employees, and we've had to quarantine them and tell them to take care of themselves. We follow very strict protocols on that are set up by the Department of Public Health. Safety and health are number one concern for me. It breaks my heart when someone is ill and I worry about their family members, whether I know them or not. And for our staff, for our students, for our families, this is paramount. And I know the board, it's paramount too. Tonight, our team will propose, and it's something we've talked to CUTA about. They were concerned that we should have a no sooner than return date. I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. Tonight, staff will recommend that we are not returning any sooner than October 16th. That's the end of the quarter for Cunha and for the high schools. I want to put that out here right at the beginning because I want to manage everybody's expectations. And I want to be very clear and give some people some certainty, because I know some people don't have a tolerance for ambiguity, and I understand. It's heart-wrenching and crazy-making that we don't know what's happening, and we're still in this place where the federal government and state government and doctors and scientists, and we don't know what's happening with COVID-19. It's a very strong, very powerful disease. I think it's number 3 killer in the United States now. So with that said, I want everybody to know that our decisions are really based on the well-being of our brothers and sisters, whether they're CUTA, CSEA, our employees, underrepresented, represented, our families, our students, but this is about a community concern. And that's why most of districts in the state are starting remotely. Now, we know some people are saying, hey, we should get back to school and you should apply for waivers. Those waiver processes are not clear, but what is clear is that even if we were to apply for a waiver to get elementary students back quicker, we would still have to consult with families and with our bargaining units. And I want everybody to know that I would probably err on the side of staying closed and staying remote if it saves a life. That's my commitment. I want my employees, our employees, my colleagues to know that. And I want my families, our brothers and sisters, our students to know that. And there will be some people who say, Sean, you know, get them back into school. We got to get them back into school. I can't do it in good conscience, doing my job, until such point as I feel like we're all safe and we make a decision that is based on science and data and based on the people we serve and the people that we employ, a consideration for their health and their safety and their well-being. And so I tried to communicate that very clearly to our staff on Monday in professional development. I will say this probably all the way until such time as we're making a decision to come back. When we say October 16th as a no sooner than date, it is entirely possible that we will revisit this and have to extend it. It is very possible that people will say, no, come back sooner, everything's fine. That will be a decision from the board. We will make recommendations to the board. But I just want to let everybody know my position and my stance on this is that health and safety have to be job number one for us. And that means psychological safety also. This has been a very interesting time for us, challenging time for us as employees in the district and as families and students in the district. We need to take care of one another. When we have organizational friction, when we have interpersonal friction, when we have disagreements, we all need to know that ultimately we will make decisions based on the board's approval of those decisions under their purview, and that some management decisions we will make. But I am making a commitment now to try to listen more to what's being said by employees, by families, by students, by my board members now more than ever, knowing that the vulnerability we have. So I live to serve. I aspire to that. There's always ways for me to improve in doing that, both for my board and my bosses, but also for the people that I serve. I was a waiter for years, so I kind of approach this as you are my customers, you are our customers, but more than that, on a human basis, you are people that I have compassion and I have empathy for, and I want to make sure that everybody understands that we are taking these decisions very seriously because they should be based on compassion, on empathy, and call me cheesy, on love. We have to show a sense of care for one another at this time. I know that I have been maybe not as careful in the past. And so I so appreciate sort of trying to give an olive branch to my CUTA members and getting it back from them when we've had some friction. And I just want to acknowledge that. And we hope going forward that we can keep at this and keep talking about what we need to be talking about, and know there are no easy answers, but that together I think we can get through this, and hopefully we can minimize the pain and suffering that we know is around us. So with that, I want to go ahead with the rest of the meeting, and I just want everybody to take a deep breath and know that we're all here to try to help people, and that's our goal, that's our commitment, and that's what we will keep trying to remind people of going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. McFetridge. Next on our agenda is item 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you so much. Aye, Freya.
Aye.
Mary Beth.
Aye.
Lizette.
Aye.
Thank you. And Sophia.
Aye.
And Caroline.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion passes 5+1. Next on our agenda under general business is 5A, update on the 45-day budget revision, SB 98, and opening of school and approval of new opening of school recommendations. Just a point of order, do we listen to the presentation first or should I take the public comment first?
You should listen to well, I mean, you can do it either way, but there's only one public comment. I think it's fine if you want to do it that way and get it over with, but typically we would listen to the presentation, then read the comment, then let you deliberate.
Okay, so let's go on and hear the presentation first then.
Good evening, President Hines, members of the board. Today we are going to be bringing to you this presentation in a contextualized manner where we are going to be looking at what is our requirements, our current requirements, and how does that work within the context of our current budget assumptions. So we are going to be talking to you, bringing to you information about what is that SB 98, which is the budget bill, is bringing us, and how do we look like 45 days after it has been passed, the budget, the California budget was passed on June 29th. So on the next slide, I just said that we're going to be contextualizing this information within what we need to do regarding the SB 98, the budget bill, and the very fiscal issues that we have. So Rosie, we can go to the next slide and the next slide. So on June 29th, Governor Newsom signed this bill, which looked very different than the one that had that the budget that he had proposed in May. One thing that I would like to emphasize is that with SB 98, with the budget bill, which it's in here in its entirety, and along with the note, the cover memo from the governor, is that in section 4359 of this bill, there is this very important thing that we're going to be talking to the board today, is that learning continuity and attendance plan. Now, the 10 pages that we are encouraging you to read carefully, it's about 10 pages out of the whole bill, which it's in section 34 of this document, and it gives us how the education code has been modified to implement, has been amended to implement the current bill. So the next slide, then I would like to basically tell you what happened. So SB 98, the budget bill, basically did away temporarily from what we have gotten to know as the local control and accountability plan. That you would have signed or approved along with the budget was not a requirement this year for us, but what came with the signing of the budget bill is another one that now is called the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan. Ironically, both of them are LCAPs, but one of them, but they're totally different. Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan is what came to us as a result of the guidelines that we received as the budget was signed. And what it basically is, it's providing, it's more than information, is dictating how we are to implement a learning continuity plan that, and it really emphasizes the notion that stakeholders need to be deeply engaged. That is not different than what we had for the LCAP, but it is very, very LCAP-like the stakeholder engagement that it is required for us to move forward with a learning continuity and attendance plan. So in the next slide, we are giving you the timeline that basically at the board meeting, at the upcoming board meeting on September 30th, we will be bringing to you a learning continuity and attendance plan for your consideration and approval. And just reminding everybody, all of our stakeholders, that we will need to also provide all of our stakeholders and to you by December 15, an overview of what all these expenditures were all about and how it is that we are going to be spending the dollars that we received as in our budget and in SB 98. Next slide is basically just letting you know that the County Office of Education, our San Mateo County Office of Education, after we submit to them on September 30th, the plan, they have up until October 30th to take us back and forth and say that's approvable, that's not approvable. Hopefully it will be approvable as we submit it to you, and it is approved at our September 10th meeting. And then we are to also receive some feedback from them within 15 days. The last two bullets in here are pretty LCAP-ish. That's basically what we do with the LCAP. We go back and forth. So the next slide, it's one thing that SB brings us to, and I just wanted to bring this to the attention of everybody, yourselves and our stakeholders, is that the new attendance and plan is going to be requiring that we account for 180 instructional days, and that just as established by the board, we are responsible for having those 180 instructional days being accounted for, and that our certificated employees are the ones who are going to be then helping us document the daily participation of our students. So on our next slide also, it is going to be, we are to provide evidence of that daily participation, and that we keep track of weekly engagement record of our students in learning. And those records are a new thing that we are going to be able to produce, assuring that that our students are engaged and are learning, and if they are not, then we will mark them as absent. I want to let you know that this is about student engagement and student learning. However, I just want to also indicate that our ADA, that funding mechanism, is not linked to this. We are responsible for this learning, but our funding mechanism is based on our ADA from 2019-2020. So that is how the legislators decided that while we are going to be keeping some stability, or bring some stability to our funding, but also bringing some commitment to the learning via this attendance and engagement notion. So the next slide, I want to bring to you our journey, and I gave you 3 slides in here. The first slide, the next slide, it's how we passed the budget back in March of 2020. This is what we brought to you, and these are the numbers that you approved the budget 2021 for. You will see that we became Basic 8 last year. We were thinking that we were going to be continuing Basic 8, and then things changed. Then with the new assumptions on the next slide, we brought to you what with the passage of the SB 98, the passage of the board approval, we continue to be deficit spending, but now we would be on a third year out, 22-23, according to our projections, very conservative projections that we would be on our third year out. We would not be meeting our reserve. So after all the calculations, again, the next slide is the one that gets the same information, but now we are on the third year out, we would be not meeting our reserve, and the difference between the previous one and this one is barely $5,000. So we continue. It's pretty similar to what we had, and we said these are conservative numbers, and then we know that budget will continue to change. These are assumptions that will continue to change. This budget does not include right now the CARES dollars, the CARES federal dollars. It does not have them in here because we just barely got them a week ago. We just got the numbers of a week ago. The original estimate, it was going to be that we were going to be receiving about $2.1 million, and what we ended up getting is $1.9 million. So those changes are the ones that are to be introduced in here. And so those federal dollars are very earmarked for very specific purposes. And I will mention some of those. It is basically the federal dollar that comes for us to make sure that we are addressing the loss of learning from our children, and we are addressing also what the gap, how can we close the learning gap that has occurred as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, and that we bring some intensive instructions and support to our students, that we may increase the number of instructional minutes with these dollars, that we can provide some additional academic services for our students, and that we look at the barriers that are keeping our students from learning, that we can look into their health, any counseling, any mental health services, and also that we look into providing professional development for our teachers, our parents, and support anything that will be needed for our students' distant learning, so that we support that, and that we look at our students and our teachers and our whole district community, or whole school district community, with programs that help us to alleviate the trauma and socio-emotional that comes with distance learning, that comes with our current decisions. So as we look into what we would be including into the plan that is going to be brought to you on September 10, rather, then the $1.9 million that I spoke to are going to be included in those budgets. The next slide then talks, I want to bring to also that we continue with that ERAF litigation that goes back to the 17-18 and 18-19 recalculations of the ERAF. We borrowed from the county $14 million to finish the year in without negative balances, but we have paid back the county. Our cash flow crisis will continue as we know that this year, 2021, we're expected to be an LCFF district, and that we will need to more than likely get some more money. We just on this August 11th, day before yesterday, we received the $15 million that we are borrowing to keep paying our bills. So we don't know what effect just yet our LCFF deferrals will have on us. So one thing is the notion of our revenue and expenditures and what we are anticipating, and the other one that is causing our cash flow crisis is when we get those dollars. So we have that crisis continuing, and we will keep you posted on what that is all about as we move through it. So today we had a meeting with the county office and asked about this litigation and how are we going to be moving through. The San Mateo County Office of Education is ready to help us out again, should we need to another dry period borrowing from SMCOE. So I will keep you posted at our cash flow situation. The next slide, it's basically for us to continue and start looking at our local flexibility and exercise that. And as we face this deferrals and the effect that it will have on us, and to allocate those $1,909,763, which are earmarked for those purposes that just mentioned to you, and also let you know that there's another small amount that it is linked to the Title I allocation, which amounts to $96,235, and those dollars are going to be also earmarked to support Title I-like activities, which is the education of the disadvantaged, which is what we are expecting to use them on. And I already said, we are heading towards another tax and revenue anticipation note. The next slide then is, so in this context, what are we looking at? Based on our fiscal reality, I think Superintendent McPetrich already told you that we're bringing back to you the notion of having the in-person instruction no earlier than October 16, which would be at the quarter for our middle school and high school. And so remote learning activities that we would be then funding with, as I told you, from the CARES program, it's going to be our focus. We will continue to keep our eyes and monitoring on our health orders. The next slide then is that hybrid model that we're looking at is going to be totally linked to this where we are on the watch list and our health orders. So just for information, so we're keeping track of this and monitoring this. Our next slide basically is so what's in the watch list? What do we look at? Currently, this is the criteria that the watch list is having. So we are continuously looking at it, and Superintendent McPetrich shared we will only go to the phase of seeing in face-to-face instruction when we are ready and when we meet all of the criteria that our watch list it's all about. Our next slide then is what's in the learning continuity and attendance plan, and the TCA is going to be walking us through that.
Thank you, Jesus. Good evening, President Hines, board members, Dr. McFetridge, colleagues, and community. So I'm here today to go a little deeper on what the learning continuity and attendance plan, and I know the state tries to trick us with the naming these two plans LCAPs, but like Jesus says, these are two separate plans. And so that is why we'll be using the full name of the learning continuity and attendance plan instead of adding yet another acronym such as LCAP square. So I won't click on the links, but we did provide to the board and the community the actual template as well as the instructions for the plan that will be presented on September 30th. Do you mind clicking to the next slide, Rosie? Or I don't know, do I have access to do that?
You have the controls.
Okay, I just don't see, oh, there they are, it's very small. Okay, and the first section will just be general information about our local, our Cabrillo Unified School District and how we have addressed the COVID-19 pandemic. And this slide talks a little bit about the instruction. And Senate Bill 98 established the new learning continuity and attendance plan. And like Jesus mentioned, it is intended to continue that meaningful engagement as the LCAP has previously with our various contingency groups. And it has a couple of implications, a few implications. One that Jesus also mentioned is that the LCAP is now postponed for the 2020-2021 year, and instead we'll be using the learning continuity and attendance plan in replacing our communication and our definition of how we're aligning funding to services and goals. It also condenses pre-existing plans such as our budget, our pandemic recovery plans as we presented last board meeting, as well as instructional plans. And it balances stakeholder engagement within this condensed plan. Now we will continue to refine and expand our stakeholder engagement, but we are blessed that we have received commitment from our opening of school steering committee, as well as our task force group, to continue to act as advisory and our stakeholder input groups as we continue to not only develop the learning continuity and attendance plan, but also implement and amend. So thank you so much, everybody. We have over 50 people involved in our opening of schools teams. Okay, the next slide. Stakeholder engagement. Senate Bill 98 describes meaningful engagement as improved understanding of current needs and possible solutions. Our task force teams made up of our teacher leaders and administrators are working with us in think tanks in taking a look at problems and offering solutions to the problems. As Jesus mentioned, the 1.9 million of CARES money, currently we have an elementary, a middle, and a high school task force that are working and advising us and taking a look at staff survey data and are making recommendations on technology applications and programs that can support the remote learning piece of instruction. And so this is some of the level of stakeholder engagement that we have already begun. Stakeholder engagement is defined as more informed decision-making, a trust between parties, all our contingency groups, and also supports and encourages stronger and longer lasting relationships. Now, Senate Bill also, I'm sorry, okay. We'll continue to engage with the task force, as I mentioned, And the who is we need to not only consult with opening of schools task force and our steering committee, but have those meaningful conversations with our local bargaining units as we develop. And how do we do this? Again, we're lucky to have established these teams during the summer, and we'll continue to engage. And part of the growth that we need to do is to make sure that we continue to have a larger outreach with our parents who speak Spanish in our community, because that is the largest population of at-promise families in our community, our Spanish-speaking families, as well as families from socioeconomically disadvantaged households. And I do want to say that through our process of obtaining input, we asked for survey data. We also developed focus groups that were basically Zoom meetings that were at a specific time where families could Zoom in and engage in providing input. And the third one was a casting of a PowerPoint and a narrated PowerPoint. And I want to say that when looking at the access to all of these three different forms of communication, the narration of the YouTube PowerPoint, we've crossed 2,000 views of the English PowerPoint with a summary of our opening of schools. And two, in particular, I wanted to point out our reach out, our outreach to our families that speak Spanish. For our survey data, our Spanish survey data, we only received 10 survey feedback from 10 Spanish speaking families. When we looked at our focus group, focus group was about maybe 12. And when we looked at the number of people that accessed that narrated YouTube presentation, it was about 275 last I looked. Now, of course, it does not equal to most likely the percentage of our families that speak Spanish. Some of our families are bilingual, so I'm estimating number of ELs is 23, but number of families that speak Spanish are at around 45%. Some of them may be bilingual, but this is one way that we will continue to engage with stakeholders and determine if we can have small socially distanced meetings, work with our community liaisons to continue to increase the outreach for the subgroups that we're seeing are not as engaged as others. And sorry about that. Okay, so the learning continuity and attendance plan, I'm just going to go through quickly what are some of the components of the plan, so that when we do present the plan, you have the backstory and the outline of what the plan is entailed to give our community. One, we mentioned about the feedback. Number two is a description of the options provided for remote participation in public meetings and public hearings. The learning continuity and attendance plan on September 30th at our September board meeting, we will have both the public hearing and the approval on the same day. And again, we have lots of data where we're able to analyze and demonstrate the program choices and the phase-in model that we have recommended. We also need to provide a summary of the feedback from each specific stakeholder group. That data we already have and will continue to acquire, as well as describe aspects of the plan and how it was influenced by specific stakeholder input. And again, all of the decisions in our opening of schools plan that was presented last month, the recommendation was influenced by our constituency groups. And so please know that we are on target in providing this information in the plan. Now, this is also part of Senate Bill 98 and the attendance piece, where whenever possible, we need to describe actions that we will take in order to offer classroom-based instruction keeping in mind that phase 2, we are working on, as soon as we can offer phase 2 in small group instruction, including some assessments, we will begin that phase 2 before that phase 3 that of transition before October 16. And so this is some of the information that you'll see in the plan is how we are trying to give those extra layers of support for our students. And our students are English learners, low socioeconomic, and students that may need that safe space to access instruction. And again, I'm going over a few other sections. Continuity of instruction. This is a description of the curriculum that we will be using. And as mentioned, we are in the process of receiving advice from our task force groups and approving supplemental curriculum to support that remote learning and make sure that whenever we are able to transition in person, our students will be successful in learning. Also, our Director of Technology, Randy Rudolph, and the technology team has worked countless hours in making sure that we're able to provide devices and connectivity for our students. Pupil participation and progress. I know that Jason will talk a little bit about the attendance portion later on in the conversation, so I won't spend too much time on that piece of the continuity plan and the distance learning. Distance learning professional development has to also be included in the plan. And please know that we will continue to work with the team of educators that attended San Mateo County Office of Ed professional development series. I know that many of our leaders in education are already providing technological support to teachers. And so we thank our educators for that, and know that on Wednesday, we are working with defining topics and technical training for our teachers to ensure that that every Wednesday we are able to provide tools that are also differentiated by staff and their need, because some staff may already know how to utilize a certain program such as Google Suite, or how to Castify, how to use a casting, or how to create hyper documents. We will make sure to differentiate the instruction of professional development for that Wednesday planning day. Also in the plan, we need to define the shifts in the staff roles and responsibilities from each department, both classified and certificated. As we know, COVID-19 has dramatically shifted everybody's roles. And so in this section, we'll be working with our personnel and pupil services department to help define these new roles and responsibilities and how we're supporting distance learning. And the next bullet is support for pupils and their unique needs. In particular, our students, our English learner students, our students with disabilities, and pupils in foster care, and students experiencing homelessness, as well as the actions that we're taking above and beyond. So the CARES money needs to demonstrate above and beyond services that what our students are currently receiving. And just know that it takes a village, and our teams are working together to define these above and beyond services. This slide regarding pupil learning loss, it's important to note that Senate Bill 98 requires us to measure and assess pupil learning loss in 3 areas, and only 3 areas: English language arts, ELD, and mathematics. It doesn't mean that we are not going to measure the progress in other content areas, but the reporting of pupil learning loss and assessment to define where the child is as soon as they enter our school on Monday will only focus on these 3 subject areas. Now, please know that we are working with our task force teams. And just today, we have decided to use some tools, supplemental technology tools, to support our teachers in measuring that loss. And the next slide. No, so in this section calls out in particular how we're going to accelerate that learning loss for all pupils, but in particular our English learners, low income, foster youth, and students with disabilities, and students experiencing homelessness. Please know that in this section, we are going to continue to provide specific actions and services. And again, as mentioned, we are looking into supplemental programs, professional development opportunities, so that we can support students in accelerating them, because we already know that there was some loss, and we need to ensure we align the curriculum that we are using and use assessments that will measure that instruction of the curriculum that we're using. So more to come on the programs that we're currently looking into. In this section, the prompt will describe how our district will support mental health and social emotional well-being. This includes what professional development will be provided to our staff, not only to support their own social emotional well-being, but also tools that we can give to our families and our students that will help in the social emotional self-care area. Also, this section will call for the description of resources that will be provided to our pupils and staff to address trauma and other impacts that our students are facing due to COVID-19. Now, we did kick off the school year and engaged all of our staff with a wellness and self-care session. And we will continue to provide wellness and self-care for our teachers, as well as tools that they can also share with students, as well as our families. Thank you, Rosie. I couldn't find the cursor. In this section, pupil and family engagement and outreach, this is our family engagement section. So please know that there is, we are learning and growing in this new area of COVID-19, and know that in this section, we will need to provide a tiered re-engagement, not only of our families, but students that are not engaged or not participating in Zooms or calls or turning in their assignments. And we will also take this opportunity to re-engage our families and determine what strategies or programs, trainings are needed in order to ensure that we build safety nets to pull in all of our families. And that could, and again, we're working with our local community partners, Boys and Girls Club, and CCP, our Project HEAL, and our community has really gotten together, led by Amy Bono. We have already distributed opportunities for parents to participate in having their students be in a safe environment while engaging in distance learning. And when it is safe, all of our elementary, middle, and high school task force have included re-engagement of families. And when it is safe for us to bring our students in, at least a small portion of them, we want to be able to utilize safe spaces within our own school district, where a child may not receive instruction, but they may be able to receive a safe space with internet, a place that is quiet, and with the tools necessary, and possibly a staff member that can help problem solve and support the child in accessing remote learning opportunities. So please know that we are continuing to define this section as well. Now, a change from the template in this section, there was a change in the template that now the use of all pupils is now no longer limited to free and reduced price meals. So nutrition is again similar to before, that we are now required to serve food for any student that feels they need nutritional services. And I know Jesus and Sandra will be providing additional information when we present in September, but wanted to point that out. And that school nutrition and nutritional services will continue despite the learning setting, whether it's distance learning, remote learning, or in person. This section, the increase and improved services for foster youth English learners and low-income students, is very similar to the previous local control accountability plan section. Here we need to describe that most of the CARES money that Jesus mentioned is providing increased and improved services above and beyond what students have received last school year. And again, most of this will be around online technology programs, support around training our teachers on how to access these new applications, and additional safety measures that we'll need to take in order to serve the learning progress of our particular subgroups, foster youth English learners and low-income students. And again, this provides more details on what a sufficient response would be. We need to ensure that our actions and our funding are, again, aligned to a proportional increase of improvement in services for our unduplicated pupils, particularly our unduplicated pupils. So the funding is available for all of our students, but mostly for the 3 particular subgroup students that may have a more challenge in accessing our remote learning plan. And now we have Miss Martha Ladd on the line, and I'm going to try to hand over the microphone. Martha, are you on?
Yes, I am. Okay, good evening, everybody. And I made it back from the deep places in California, and I'm excited to be here tonight. This slide is basically showing you the major structures in the district to support students and families. The work of the Educational Support Services Department and team is to design and innovate these programs and frameworks for the distance learning environment. For instance, our positive behavior intervention and support program has been rolled out and implemented at all the schools for in-person learning. But in that process, we have defined settings, we've taught expectations, and we've acknowledged students internalizing those expectations while also reteaching and discouraging problem behavior through positive interventions. The questions we ask in distance learning is, what are the settings in distance learning? Is it a Google Meet, a chat room, a virtual breakout room? And if those are our new settings, then how do we define our expectation in those settings? How do we teach expectations in these new settings? And what are our acknowledgement processes? And then, of course, how do we reteach or discourage problem behavior through positive behavior interventions? PBS, as you know, is a data-driven process. So again, how do we collect data? The implications for implementing a robust PBIS plan in the remote setting will address some of these things that Leticia was just talking about, increasing student engagement and participation and decreasing truancy in our programs while we're in this setting. This is the same process that we're going through and developing right now and implementing for our coordination of services teams, as well as our larger umbrella program, the multi-tiered systems of support. And then with respect to our special education programs, today I sent a letter out to parents about what to expect in the days ahead. Tomorrow, I'll be rolling out our distance learning plan, which are to our educational specialists, which are our processes and procedures for our IEP meetings and assessments, as well as instruction plans that are in accordance with our IEP goals. In the next several days, our educational specialists will be contacting all of the families on their caseloads to develop a distance learning plan collaboratively. I'm also planning a parent meeting with all of our parents who have students with disabilities and 504 plans as a question and answer to assist parents with digital programs, the setup of a home environment, and their schedules. And we'll have two of those evenings, one to support our parents who speak English and one to support our parents who speak Spanish. And tonight I'll be known as One Slide Lad. That's my presentation.
I just want to thank our staff for trying to get through this so quickly. Thank you.
Well, in that case, everybody, I'd better go quick, start my speed talking and all that good stuff. Anyway, good evening, board members, Superintendent McFetridge, President Hines, community, and other esteemed guests. I will be presenting on behalf of Pupil Services this evening. And I'm going to see if I have control of the screen. I don't need it because I think Rosie's got my back. So thank you, Rosie, for that. Pupil Services, one of the main things that we have been working on is ensuring that we have a reporting system for COVID exposure. And so anyone who is suspected of being exposed and or has been reported to be exposed, whether self-reporting or through others, we have a process that we use. So for example, if a staff or a student reports, they will report to their direct supervisor or principal. I'm alerted. And then once I'm alerted, we put our staff into effect, and they will be calling and administering a questionnaire that is confidential that will let us know what next steps we need to take to make sure we're keeping everyone safe. The superintendent is informed of those cases. And then from there, he informs the county superintendent and health department, and we move forward appropriately from there. Please note that any employee who reports exposure to COVID is quarantined for a period of time, and then based on what the health department says, we will then either bring that person back to work or continue to have them on leave until we know that it is safe for them to return. Typically, it's 14 days or longer. As we move forward, staff and student absences, I know Jesus touched on the nitty-gritty of attendance reporting and the things that we need to do as far as not only reporting attendance, but reporting participation. And so it turns out that's very complicated to do within our student management system. And so we have been working for a long time with Ann Barretto to try and figure out how we can make sure that we do that. We think we have a plan that will be able to make sure that when we take attendance, we can also take participation and be able to report that out, well, be able to record that so Jesus can then pull the report and report that out. So we are definitely working together to make sure that we are meeting all the needs, not only of our students, but our legal and requirements with SB 98. Can we move forward with that one? So I know we had our learning choice that went out to all the parents to see what they wanted to do. And so we had the general responses. These are the percentages of what each person wanted. And so as you can see, the majority of our, we have general responses, which is mainly our English speaking households that wanted 60% hybrid learning, and then remote and independent or going to leave the district for a period of time. At the time when this presentation was created and put in the board packet, we had 2,117 responses. We are now up to almost 2,500 responses. Considering we have approximately between 3,000 and 3,100 students, that's an amazing amount of responses. So we are very excited about that. Here are responses by school. And so just the percentages of, what people had to say and, by school, in case you find that interesting. We can move on. This is from our Hispanic Latinx communities. you know, we can see that there's a little bit of a difference between the desire for hybrid versus the remote learning. And we don't have anybody that reported that they were leaving the district. So that I feel is positive. Again, responses by school. So you can take a peek at this. I think that the responses pretty much mirror what all of the responses are. We haven't really had many surprises. We do have our folks who are going to be doing independent study learning, and they will be enrolled in starting that. So we're very excited. Leticia is working with our teachers to make sure that that happens curriculum-wise, and I'll be overseeing that program, which is also very exciting to me. And we'll move forward from there. And that's all I have for you tonight, folks. I hope that was quick and painless. And if you have any questions, of course, I am more than happy to answer them at the conclusion of the presentation. Or if you'd like, you're welcome to email me or call me at the office. Thank you for all of your support.
And to wrap up this presentation, Randy is not able to be with us this evening, but just on this slide, next slide, Rosie, it's basically a summary of what we are doing to invest on our technology and so that we can have the learning that we want, the remote learning that we're aspiring to, and that we support our teachers. Randy has done a phenomenal job in securing the infrastructure that will support all of this learning. So part of that is that the laptops that he has been distributing to all of our teachers, the new copiers that are functioning now on all of our sites, and of course with that, working on the policies that we are going to be putting out there so that we can have a secure wireless network and continue on the add-ons to the Google Suite that we're using. Randy has really worked hard in breaking down the barriers that we had, and has gone out there and partnered with the folks out there at Boonridge, and has really gotten to put in there a secure 24/7 internet access for our students, and then connect the Chromebooks that we are issuing it to those internet places. And similarly to Pillar Ridge, and that community has secured some large hotspots who are able to total of 2 or 3 out there that would cover our 480 some students that we have that live in that area, which had traditionally not have internet access. So he continues to work on that and making sure that a partnership with our library and continue to make sure that we are closing the connectivity, the gap that we are experiencing. He has recently surveyed our students and is forever trying to figure out who does not have access, and making sure that we work with the San Mateo County to expand the coverage that has traditionally been part of on the coast side. So in a nutshell, that is our moving us into the technology that is going to be helping us support the learning.
If I may, this is Sean speaking. I just want us to talk about this technology. It's been a pain point and a growth area for every district, for the state, for the county, the nation. I do appreciate that all our schools have Wi-Fi, and we've tried to change our policies so that we can have security for our network, because last year a district actually had their network hijacked and held ransom. And so we are trying to do that. But that said, because of the pandemic and because of our need to get everybody on, we're trying to be flexible in that regard. until such time as we get all the phones installed and we get all this computer access created for teachers and for families. I want to thank MidPenn for the work they've done to provide internet access to residents at Moonridge and give Chromebooks to students themselves. Mr. Contreras talked about a hotspot at Moonridge's community room and hotspots at Pillar Ridge to provide 24/7 access to our students who live there. And also I want to thank the public library for their commitment and their contribution to us in helping Half Moon Bay Public Library. And I also want to just say that we know that we are continuing to work with our teachers to provide them tools as they continue to identify tools. And we will continue to look at how we can provide those tools and expand our access. I think our plans last year with some budget cuts were to take away certain functionality, and we will continue to investigate that. And if we need another year to train people and to provide tools and figure out how that's going to work going forward, we will. But considering what we're doing now, I just want to ascertain and ensure that we are doing what we can to make sure that we have connectivity and functionality for our students, our families, and our staff who need to use the tools that these technology tools to teach our students.
Thank you. And so the only action item in this presentation is the approval of starting at the end, that looking at what the recommendations are from San Mateo County Office of Ed's, California Department of Ed, and San Mateo County health orders, and determine if it is safe to open no sooner, as Dr. McFetrich mentioned, than October 16. The rest of the presentation is an update to the board and our community. And please know that at the next board meeting, we do plan on bringing the final handbooks for COVID-19 protocols and procedures, as well as opening of schools. And now, do you have any questions for us?
Thank you very much. Just to step through the sequence, can I have a motion to approve? As Dr. Bhatia had mentioned, that we defer opening until no earlier than October 16th. We're not going to vote on it yet. We just have to have the motion, and then I will read public comment, and then we'll open it up for questions.
So moved.
Thank you, Freya. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sophia. So first, before we move to the questions, the public comment. This is from Doug and Jacqueline Machado. They are parents at El Granada Elementary School. Good evening, board. We are parents of a special needs child at El Granada Elementary. The remote learning we experienced in the spring was unsuccessful, to say the least. The Zoom meetings became very stressful, and soon she would not engage at all. We attended the Zoom meeting for parents of special needs students in late June, and most parents on the meeting agreed that remote learning did not work for their students either. We would suggest the board entertain the idea of having a waiver policy for in-person instruction, meaning parents would sign a waiver to modify the guidelines of the 4 pillars to allow special needs or high-risk students access to in-person instruction as soon as possible. We feel it is extremely important for the district to find creative ways to get these students in the classrooms. Thank you for your time. And thank you to Doug and Jacqueline Machado for offering their comments. With that, I open up the floor to the board to ask questions.
I have a question for Leticia or Jesus. So do I understand correctly that the proposal is to agree to open no sooner than October 16th? Does that include small groups, or was that would we not have small groups until after that?
Thank you for clarifying. It's for phase 3.
Phase 3.
So it would be full on hybrid in-person instruction.
With
So
mostly outdoor classrooms was phase 3, right? And then phase 4 was or no?
phase 3 would be basically the implementation for hybrid.
Okay.
And right now, as per the language that we read and in Senate Bill 98 and the watch list language. So as we read it, there is language that allows us to see small groups if we, of course, if we have the conversations with our unions, and if it is safe to open, and if there is a need, we are required to assess with LPAC. I know we are meeting with our fabulous group of LPAC substitute teachers that are helping us in this process. And as Martha mentioned in the comment that was read earlier by President Hines, we are working really hard, and as soon as it is safe to open, we want to start seeing small groups. We heard this from our teachers. Our TK and K teachers want to be able to assess and have a little more time with our students. But please know that we, like the slow and steady wins the race. We want to make sure that the safety protocols and measures are in place. And of course, we want to work with our teachers, and if they feel that they would like to start seeing students, then we can begin that even now. I mean, right now, even with orientation sign-in, I know we have students coming in, but it's for a very short period. So to answer your question, Trustee Lane, is that yes, the October 16th would, the reopening would be for the implementation of the hybrid learning model, which would equal to phase 3.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Sean has a clarifying comment.
Just as a point of order, I just always want to bring this up, and this may seem out of my past character, but I really wanted to be part of my new character, is that the MOU that you will discuss and potentially approve tonight, that CUTA approved yesterday, says that we will not require people unless it's for legally mandated services, but in the spirit of partnership, spirit of consulting, I want to make sure that regardless of the language that's written in the MOU, that if we need to bring back our at-promise students, and first of all, when we say at-promise, the old language was at risk. We like to use the word at-promise to use growth mindset. So if there are students that are at promise of achieving their potential but have not yet done so, or who have different abilities, whether that's learning abilities or physical abilities or language abilities, whatever they may be, we want to be able to meet with those at-promise students for legally mandated services, but we will want to consult with teachers and make sure that our union representatives understand that we are doing so only for legally mandated services. If we did not, we could get into some problems with following the law and compensatory ed. And so to that public comment, we want to work with our families and we want to work with our staff to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about us doing our job going forward. And I want to be walking now on eggshells to consult with our union partners to make sure that we do that in a way that's respectful and that takes care of their health and takes care of family and student health.
Okay, so then to just make sure I understand, so that means that we can bring small groups. There's, and to me, from my perspective, I entrust district staff and union leaders to work together to consult and, work through those nuances. I'm just trying to get, from my understanding is, as a district, staff and teachers will be able to work together to bring small groups, onto campus where they feel it's needed.
Yes, I mean, I'm afraid to belabor this point, but I just want to be explicit, and sometimes complex ideas require a lot of language.
Yeah.
So in this regard, we would, I'll give you an example. Bringing high school athletes onto high school campus at Half Moon Bay High School for summer conditioning. We got a proposal from the athletic director and the principal and assistant principal on how to do that. And I referred it to county council to check the legality of it, to manage our risk and to make sure that we were following the 4 pillars. In this kind of regard, I think that's the same thing. You'll see in the MOU later, which is completely connected to this, is that we are really wanting to make sure that we follow the law, we follow best legal guidance, that we follow best practice, and that we're really double checking over and over again and not trying to do something, number one, because we want to engender a positive relationship with our employees and our family. And number two, because we want to make sure that we're complying with the law. Martha Ladd, bless her, was very concise in what she was talking about and spoke to there are services we need to provide. And the MOU is very explicit in that we would consult with CUTA about doing that. We know that some employees want to do that, but we also know that CUTA representatives are the sole bargaining representatives, and we need to double check. So I'll just be very transparent. Martha the other day said, hey, I've seen the new MOU. Will this be an impediment to us being able to do something we're legally mandated to do? And I said, no, as long as we consult with CUTA representatives and we assure and ascertain the willingness of our employees and our families. And then we would follow the 4 pillars, and we would, if we were, we would bring small groups back or individuals back for assessments, or, you know, and if we can bring back, if we start to feel a comfort level to bring back at Promise students for actual instruction, we would do that, but we would do it with kid gloves, I think, at this point. I've learned my lesson. I'll just say it. I'm getting emails and texts from certain CUTA members right now saying, hey, thank you for establishing a new tone. I think it's important for us during the pandemic and during this MOU and this time to make sure that we are establishing a new tone, to make sure that we're checking and saying, hey, we're going to do this. We want you to be aware. What questions do you have? How do we proceed? How do we get to our objectives? I think we do that better working together. So as a point of order, I just want to make sure that I'm living up to my commitment and voicing my commitment to the MOU and to the board and to our employees and to our families, that we will continue to try to work out these things when there are impediments and see our goal.
No, that makes sense. Thanks for clarifying. And just from my view, that if the stars align, and a lot of stars are going to have to align for us to get to phase 3, as I see it. The state's having some data management issues they're going to need to clarify. They're going to need to give counties guidance on how they're going to get off that monitoring list, because that's still not clear to the counties. We are going to need to get off that list. We're going to need to make sure our local health officer has no further concerns. And we're going to need to make sure that we as a school community are comfortable that we have all those logistics in place, you know, to get to phase 3. And it's going to be even kind of the subset of that and what you described, Sean, plus making sure that we have the logistics in place to even bring anyone, you know, on campus further to like the registration events that we've had, you know, for a couple of the schools this week. And, you know, any services mandated or not. I think that's, you know, a tall order on the list to have to. So to me, October 16th is completely realistic for no earlier than. It's still, you know, still a tall order for October 16th. And I appreciate, as you said, that we'll continue to revisit that.
A couple of questions regarding logistics for the remote learning that we're starting with. I'm sorry, did you have other questions, Sophia?
That was my question about the LCAP. I didn't have any questions around the finance, but I just wanted to comment that, you know, appreciate basically it looks very similar to the last update. We're still deficit spending and forecasting $800,000 in the red a couple years out. And knowing that, you know, we live in a time of a lot of uncertainty right now, things will go up and down. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the not LCAP, the learning continuity and attendance plan in September, because I think that's going to be probably pull together a lot of the planning activities that have been going on for the last couple of months and figure out how we can really maximize that funding that we have from CARES.
Just so I can, because I can and because I think it's my job to do so, I just want to also say that, okay, what does this mean? Sophia, I think you're exactly right. The budget shows about a $5,000, it's went from 801 to 796 for a year out. But we are currently, as I said at the top of the hour or the top of the meeting, we are currently scrubbing the budget, closing the books. We will be working with School Services of California to look at our assumptions and see if there are changes, see if there's ways that we can do things differently, or if our assumptions were correct. We were very conservative, right? And so I think that now is the time that we have a pivot, and we can open a door. And I've appreciated the union sort of like meeting with us in those mediation. I've talked about that. I don't want to talk about negotiations away from the table, but I do want to say the press release will say we've been in mediation. We have financial experts. We have all shown a commitment to continuing to try to understand the budget. But as you bring that up, I just want to say that work is unfolding and starting to come to a denouement, like an unraveling, like a way that, wow, we're starting to see the light, hopefully. And so I'm hopeful for that too. And certainly we will use the CARES money for what's intended to be for learning loss, mitigation, et cetera, taking care of kids in COVID. But we also will continue to look at the budget to make sure that we can continue to see if there's ways we can spend the money in ways that we need to spend that money.
Great. Well, thank you.
Related to, but I will hold my logistics questions for the remote learning piece for just a moment. But while we're on budget, what I heard is that we'll hear a proposal for the CARES Act money in September. Is that accurate? I'm seeing Dr. Batia nod. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And I think there were some other questions from the board regarding budget tonight.
I have a few questions.
Go ahead.
First of all, on that slide that shows, all the numbers, this is more of a comment, I guess. It worries me that we are consistently spending $2 million in the hole. And the only reason it doesn't show up in not this year, but the following year is because we're hoping for that extra $2 million from going back from LCSF to basic aid out of the supplemental tax fund. But if it weren't for that $2 million bump, we would be showing $2 million deficit spending, spending $2 million more than coming in for the next 3 years. Which is super concerning when we just made $2 million in cuts. So I don't know, just an observation that if we did not have a savings account, we would be in deep doo-doo right now. And that savings account runs out in 3 years. So I just bringing it up. And of course, I wonder what we're going to do about that. But I think that's a discussion for another day. I do also have a question about the ERAF. So is it still up in the air whether we're going to have to pay that back or not?
Very up in the air. There is clarity across that those $14 million that are due to us are out there and being used. And SMCOE, the San Mateo County Office of Education, is getting to help us with the litigation that will go to see the definition of the agency, if they're going to be doing it, a recalculation for 17-18, 18-19, or how the SB 98 is now letting the counties know how they need to calculate. And so all that is happening right now. When will we see any of those dollars? It's even more remote.
Okay. And then along those lines, did you say that the county was going to give us another loan? And when you were talking about the trans, that
they are open to support us, and they have not ruled out yet the possibility of us borrowing again from them.
For the deferrals, you mean, though?
Right. For the cash management, for whatever thing, however the deferrals affect us, they are behind us and are willing to entertain the notion of another TRAN-like now from the dry period loan.
Was
What-
our last trans wasn't through them, right? It was through a
No,
bank,
no.
right? So that's why the fees were $90,000. Is that correct?
The
So if we're
trans,
able to get the loan through the county instead, that will save us money on the
Correct.
fees and interest.
into the future, yes,
Okay.
yes. If they are available to do it.
Which we don't know
have to
yet.
pay their offset for what you said last time for the interest that they would be collecting. So it's just a much lower rate, correct?
Got it.
We would anticipate it to be lower.
Lower, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's great.
Mhm.
Lower.
Nothing you hate more than paying your money out to a bank to take out loans to make payroll, you know?
Right.
So,
Right. The saddest part is that we are paying interest one way or another on those funds.
right. But not as bad as if it was a bank. So let's hope the county can help again.
Right. Right. It's comforting to know that they are behind us and they're keeping track of how we're evolving and how that litigation is going.
For the ERAF as well as another potential trans for the deferral payments coming in.
Right.
Okay.
They're paying attention to support.
Any other questions related to specifically to budget? Okay. One of the areas in terms of going back for remote learning, we heard, and I'm glad to hear that ADA and our funding is not linked to the attendance and participation component. So I had a little bit of relief there because I was becoming anxious on how are we doing this attendance. Related though to that attendance and participation, will there be an opportunity to give credit, if you will, if a student can't be on for synchronous learning but can watch later in the day or during the week a lesson and then respond in some way? Is there some attendance credit, if you will, for that participation?
So one thing is the attendance itself, and the other one would be the participation. So a child might be attending and not having a full participation, completing assignments, etc., but would be attending.
Okay.
So,
but if they can't be there, if their family can't sync up at exactly the same time their teacher is online, do they have means to watch? I know that last spring, some were posting video lessons like on YouTube, and they would come back and be able to watch it. If a parent or, in terms of that view, is there some way to acknowledge that level of engagement?
I believe that Jason indicated that he's working on those procedures that
Okay.
would help us account for that.
Okay, I think that will help parents
Yeah.
too. And then perhaps this is for Dr. Bhatia. Is there some philosophy or guidance that's been provided for teachers in terms of right-sizing expectations for students' time commitments? And I preface this, I realize it's soup to nuts. There were some parents who, I want my children to have more, but then there were others who the kids were up in the middle of the night at high school because they had so much to do. And from someone whose my body of work never stopped, I've watched workload increase for a work team and people be online at all times. And so it's like this oversaturation for online time. I don't have a magic bullet or answer, but I was just curious if there's been discussions with teachers and what the advice and recommendations are.
So Senate Bill 98 does define that an instructional day with a combined synchronous and asynchronous should not be more than fourth and above 4 hours, 240 minutes. And for TKK, it's 180 minutes, and 2 and 3 is 230 minutes. And so that's slightly under, that's 3 hours and 50 minutes. And so the classwork should not exceed that, whether it's live synchronous or asynchronous, because again, that is why the Senate bill didn't want like districts defining that instructional time. Now, with that being said, we will have these conversations, and our teachers are having multiple conversations on having a definition across grade levels or subject level spans on defining that homework piece, because we want to also encourage not to guess what happened in the spring is that all of us thought, oh, I teach 6.5 hours of actual instruction, so I need to give that instruction, that work, the level of work to students plus the homework. But now it's different. Now the state defined it for us of what the instruction is. And of course, we will continue to have those conversations, and our principals will support those conversations and discussions on ensuring that we balance the homework and understand that there is the concept of Zoom fatigue, and when students are already engaged in this very stressful situation, we might want to slow down and support and ensure that we're supporting them social emotionally as well. Did that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. I just wanted to name it into the space because I think that's something that people are concerned about. You know, it's one thing to test and make sure we're meeting standards or we're assessing to see how much is being lost, but we want to treat our students and our children as humans and have some breath into the space of trusting that, not just trusting, but knowing that kids are going to learn, and that if we create too much fatigue, we could shoot ourselves in the foot, meaning we're not going to have as much growth as we would like. So, you know, being flexible in a sense of reading the situation with the students as best we can so we can optimize it as we go along. And that's where it's really, I trust the teachers in the moment to be making those judgments. So.
And then also keeping in mind that that's something that I
want to add.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Liz.
So I did want to clarify that, and this will need to share because I just learned this just the last few days as I continue to reread all this language in Senate Bill 98 and these, you know, hundreds and hundreds of pages of language on policy. But as I mentioned in one of the slides, the state in Senate Bill 98 is only requiring us to measure growth on ELA, ELD, and mathematics. So as we continue to communicate what we're actually required, does not mean that we are not going to assess, because we are going to have to engage in the CASP, the science test for CASP in the spring, hopefully. And however, I believe that the state calling that out is telling educators that yes, like try to refocus our not instruction, but try to focus on giving that support to these core subjects while continuing to teach other subjects and assessing. But it's not going to be, the state is telling us it's not they're not going to measure, or we don't have to report that assessment piece on all other subjects.
Freya?
Yes, sorry, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just, no, thank you, Leticia. I want to first off, because I didn't get to do this last time, I hope you guys can hear me. It says my internet connection is unstable. thank you to Jesus and the TCF for kind of guiding this whole return to school process this summer. And so much work has already been done. And I think it really shows when you talk about what you're required to report by the end of September, and that you've already done a lot of that work from family, teacher input. So I just wanted to thank both of you publicly for that. I had thanked you previously in emails and stuff. And then I wanted to reiterate kind of what Kim was saying in terms of I think it's almost like flexibility for teachers and students, and just a recognition that as they're getting into these learning environments, they're learning and figuring out what works and what doesn't in terms of engaging students and delivering curriculum and doing those assessments. And so I just want us all to remember as we head into that, and hopefully that helps to reduce everybody's anxiety about what it is that we have to do, is that this is a continual learning process that clearly we've been thrown into. Now we're coming into it with much more structure, guidance, and supports, but it will still be at times messy, and we can help to figure out how to best take care of our students and also our teachers and our staff that are working on that. So I just wanted to say that. And then I wanted to just clarify the action item is that we are not returning any sooner than October 16th, but we are not actually at this moment even looking at criteria for returning, as my understanding, right? So that conversation about what that criteria is, how we follow the county guidance, the state guidance, CDC guidance, but also what our local concerns might be, has yet to be happened, and it will happen at a later date. I just wanted to kind of clarify that distinction.
If I may, yes, if I may, and I will tell you that in a lot of ways, I guess I take responsibility for this, especially knowing that in other districts, they have sort of taken these different approaches. For me, for us to have some kind of certainty, both families and staff, in this time of uncertainty and ambiguity, we just wanted to propose a no sooner than date, knowing that if we need to review that and everything happens and is great and we feel more comfortable with it, we would talk about it with parents, we would talk about it with our bargaining units. But right now, we want to set that certainty just so we can lean into living with that remote learning and have some sense of stability at this point. But I also want to say it is entirely possible that date may change. We would need to consult with bargaining units for the waiver process. We would need to consult with families, and I think the opening schools steering committee would be the righteous way to do that, a logical way to do that, PTOs, et cetera. But I think we could revisit that, and I would dare say that we would give you an update in September to say, here we are, this is where we think we're going, this is what we need to do. Maybe have an idea on that, come back in October, and then we will continue to define. I hate to do this because in the spring, I kind of felt like I was, it was Clay at the Half Moon Bay Review, right? Who said to me, Sean, do you feel like your hands are tied? I do feel like our hands are tied. We're on the watch list. Everybody's starting remotely. There is an avenue for us to do a waiver, but we don't know what the rules are yet. We want to approach this very methodically, very carefully to make sure that we take care of everybody's health. But we do want to afford ourselves an option to say we will come back to the board and ultimately the board will decide. If you direct us to say, hey, it's time, we're hearing from so many people we should go back, we think we can go back, we would look at it and we would explore it and we would make our recommendation. But Freya, I think you're 100% right there, which is even though we want you to vote on a no sooner than date, right, tonight, and really that's it. Just like last time, we wanted you to vote on let's start 2 days later, give some more planning time, and say that we're going to start remotely. Now we're saying, hey, we want you to vote on a no sooner than date, but we know that's subject to change. I know that drives people crazy too, but I would like us to have some kind of certainty knowing that we will revisit with the board in the next couple months.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Sean, and I appreciate your comments earlier about the health issue and making sure that that is a priority. In my mind, that really is a priority, and I think that's where we follow these guidelines of the county, et cetera, with watch lists, but we also have to really do our own assessment to some degree of what it is locally, what the cases are looking locally, what the testing is, other kinds of criteria. So I just want to be sure that we understand that we are not having that conversation tonight. We have a further opportunity to have that as that time becomes even possible. So I just wanted to clarify that. So
yeah, and just on the context matters. These are the most important 2 words I ever heard from my one of my grad school advisors. Context matters. the local context matters. So I think it is important for us to look at the coast side in particular as a community. However, I will say that I heard from our county superintendent this Tuesday, hey, be careful, because there's going to be a lot of people who are going to say, look at these micro data sets to say, make your decision based on these really local concerns. And remember, where globalization exists, people fly in, drive in. California by law has no quarantine. Nobody has to quarantine once they come into the state, whether they're in LA County. I mean, I got to tell you, California is like, we're the ones showing the worst numbers. LA County is really hit hard, and we just never know if somebody's bringing COVID in. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. You know, when they drive somewhere or they interact with someone who interacted with someone, it's just, wow, the whole world has become so small in some ways. But I think the local context matters. I think we would have to consider that, but I also would caution us not to make a decision thinking that we're in a bubble, because we're certainly not in a bubble. Considering that 85%. Go ahead. Go ahead, Freya.
For me, the local context is more of an add to the other stuff. It's that it's not that it's trumping it. It's that it would be even more restrictive, perhaps, depending upon what the local stuff was saying. That was more my point.
Yeah. So one way to think about it.
And I just want to.
I want to make sure we get Lizette's questions in here too.
Yeah, I was just gonna just to clarify that conversation. So I think that was important. I think one way we can think about it is we will have minimum criteria we'll need to meet, which are set by state law, and we will have the option to add more. We're not going to discuss that today because it's very premature. But I think I just want to really summarize that so make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, thanks, Sophia. Lizette.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to also piggyback on something you, Kim, and Freya mentioned, and kind of looking into the flexibility of, making sure that students participate but are also engaging. Because I know that there are a lot of families that will be sending their children to someone to watch them while they're working, and for many reasons, the people who are watching them, or the individual who is watching them, is unable to support them with their distance learning. And at times, things are hectic. People have several jobs, and sometimes, I hate to admit it, but it's going to be hard for people to come home and support them. Not meaning that it's not a priority, but I think it's very it's going to be difficult and interesting at the same time. So thank you for keeping that in mind. Also, I had a question. I guess I heard the numbers of the survey in English, and I also heard Jason give an update of a different number than what was on the presentation for the surveys, and I didn't hear him say another. I didn't hear an update for the response for the Spanish speaking, since it was very low. But I was curious, is that update because it was opened up again, or I guess if someone can clarify that, if that's because I've been hearing from a lot of families as well that for very many reasons, some of them are just technology is very new. And I mean, like you noticed today, something so simple as trying to just click a button and find a translation is not as easy. For those same reasons, some people never even got the email because they might not have an email address. I'm just concerned about those surveys, and in the future, I mean, that survey, it's done, it's over with, but I guess I'm just trying to be proactive and thinking about the future. I have one more thing. Should I stop or?
No, go ahead.
I'm on the roll.
Did you want to answer that, Lizette?
And yeah, want to go ahead? Go ahead.
Sure, yeah, no, I'd be happy to answer your question. For all of our families that were in Moonridge and Main Street, and anyone that we have noted that may have issues with accessing technology, we mailed a hard letter to.
Okay.
And we got those back, and that is what the increase was in the survey responses. I apologize for not specifying that the increase in the numbers were due to the actual mail-in choices.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Um, and is that some, I guess, okay, that answered my question. And then the other thing, regarding the learning loss, I guess I was curious. I know you guys are still working on fine tuning everything, and this is just an update. I was just curious, how far in the school year, will parents or even will parents be informed of, the learning loss and however that is determined, for their students, and I guess just a rough idea of, like, I know everything's happening all at once, but I think as a parent, just knowing how far in the school year they know, of the learning loss, and hopefully it's not at, when it's a little too late. So I was just curious if you have an idea about that.
So our goal would be to, hi Lisa, this is Leticia. And so we are hoping to continue with engaging in parent-teacher conferences. And at that time, have conversations with families of, they call it the learning continuity and attendance plans. They call it learning loss, but this is something that our educators do every year. Every year, we assess students at the beginning of the year and determine where they are depending on the subject or content area. And we will continue we want to lean on the assessments that we currently have in our district, like the Brigance and our Fontes and Pinel. These are some assessments that we could utilize to measure that learning loss. But just today, we actually are looking into an online program. I think it was ESGI, and that is an assessment measure for TK, or actually pre-K through second grade, for elementary, and in middle and high school. I do know that we've engaged, and again, remember that the learning continuity plan only requires us to report on math, ELA, and ELD. And so we are looking into these assessment modules and applications that can help our staff in measuring loss or growth. And it's not anything new. It's something that we always measure. We always measure where our students are at the beginning of the year. And we're working on how we can do that in a remote manner, because we may not be able to assess our students in person as quickly as we would like. And so know that we are having these conversations with our task force teams and making a determination of, one, can we use the CASP's interim assessment blocks to measure that loss. It's a free access to programs, and it also, I always feel that if we can utilize part of the a tool that the CASP or the LPAC has provided us to train our students how to get exposed to the tests and the text questions and the task types, we should utilize that. And so we'll start having those conversations with our secondary task force to determine the math, ELA, and ELD, what our department chairs and teachers are recommending for us to measure in the secondary, because those are the only three areas. It doesn't mean, and again, I want to clarify, we always assess, no matter if it's art or PE or social studies, science. But what we want to do right now is really focus on what the state is asking us to do, is that the other subjects can be a local assessment, and the learning loss. So again, like we do with conferences, that's a time where we can communicate with our parents of where a child's gap in knowledge is. And what the state has asked us to do is to not really, and our San Mateo County partners, to not really, like once we do assess and we find out here's where a child is in regards to standards for this year's academic grade level, we don't want to try to make up what students didn't learn in the spring of last academic year, but we want to accelerate in the instruction to this point in time right now at the beginning of this academic year, and think of acceleration instead of remediation. And so those tools and the product of the tools and the assessments that our teachers will be engaging in, we have local assessments, we have state assessments that, again, LPAC still has not provided us with the details on how to provide the LPAC remotely. They're saying they are working towards a solution to assess remotely, but any assessments that we have administered, we will share with our parents during the conference time and or at that quarter mark with our report cards.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That, I mean, I knew that they were always being assessed. I guess the reason I brought it up is because with remote learning, I think more than ever now we as parents are very engaged and almost, very more engaged than we were before because it's happening at home, and that is why I'm bringing it up because I just we it as a parent I just if I'm not a professional, I'm not a teacher, and I guess that's where I was coming from. And the other thing about, I get it, like, the other reason I brought it up is there's no point in trying to catch up for lost time and things that are out of our control. And I completely agree. We need to continue and move forward. But I also, I'm also concerned that, that we are being efficient and maximizing, resources we have to increase and continue to improve, what we do have control over.
Yes, and what I have seen in my involvement with with the task force teams is that all of our teachers and our administrators at the sites and our teams at the sites, they are doing their best in making a selection of supports, supplemental programs, and designing lessons and engaging in a lot of professional development in order to ensure that that we support that acceleration for our students. And so I really want to give kudos to our teachers and our staff and our administrators at the sites because they didn't stop in the summer either. They engaged and learned and created amazing platforms for students that are way above my tech skills. I may have to take a few classes from them, but I do want to say that that I've just have been just impressed and very proud of our teachers and our administrators in supporting that, and know that it may not be perfect, but we are working together, and we will continue to improve this because our goal, all of our goals, and that's something that everybody has shared, is that students are at the center, and we want to make sure that we support them academically as well as emotionally, and our families.
Thank you. And I also want to take the moment to thank everybody, the teachers, everybody who's been working hard to get everything, straightened out and squared away, so that these, so all the students are successful in these kind of conditions. And, to our superintendent and Jesus and just everybody, Rosie, and, Sean, Jason as well. Thank you everybody for doing such a great job.
Thank you.
wanted to follow up on Lizette's comments. I mean, maybe there is a place in the response to the daily attendance and the tracking of assignments that wouldn't be a direct communication to parents of assessment, but would perhaps bridge that gap between the beginning of year and the report cards, or the other times where teachers could informally say, hey, we need you to engage more and work on X or Y because that's important. And that would address some of those concerns that Lizette was talking about. And I think some of this is mentioned in the MOU that we'll be adopting later as well. But I just wanted to bring that up as a place for that kind of communication to occur as well.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to mention that on the parent communication piece, our teachers this week have completely engaged in building their Google Classroom, getting trained on School Messenger, on School Loop. We are in the process of adopting Seesaw for our pre-K through second grade teachers, which is a very simple communication tool that is easily accessible via phone. And it's been very successful for our teachers that have piloted last year. But yes, definitely we are looking at tools that can help bridge that family engagement avenue to ensure that in case students are not engaged, that after one day of non engagement, we can use these tools to communicate and determine what the reason is. Is it technology? Is it a lack of Wi-Fi, or lack of a safe place, a lack of furniture? I mean, I'm just thinking about all of these things, these conversations that are coming up. And yes, so we are looking into that, and we'll present more information at our next meeting. And today, we just wanted to kind of give you the background of what the different sections are in the learning continuity plan, so that next time we will just focus on the content piece and how Cabrillo has addressed these areas.
So real quick, I also just want to make one further comment on the whole kind of starting remote. I'm just really happy that we're starting remote, making it as robust as possible. Even if we end up back in hybrid at some point, there is probably a high likelihood we would slip out of hybrid again if there were cases or other things. So I just think that that's so important that we're starting this way with this kind of firm commitment to making this work. So I just want to commend all of you again for taking this on, and the teachers and the students and the other support staff and the principals and everyone. I know that it's challenging, but thank you for taking on this Herculean task.
Well,
Definitely a good time to be the tortoise and not the hare.
If I could interject for just a moment, I just wanted to note that we're coming up on 10 o'clock. Do I have a motion to go past 10?
So moved.
Thank you, Freya. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sophia. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette? I just had a text, but I think we're good. Lizette?
Sorry, you didn't hear me. Aye.
Aye, sorry, I didn't hear you. Sophia?
Aye.
Caroline?
Aye.
Thank you. 5 + 1. We'll go past 10. I'm sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have something else?
Yeah, just to talk about Freya and her appreciation for our decision-making at this time. I just want to put this in perspective again. Sometimes it's important for all of us. It's my stoic way of thinking to lift up from the situation. I have gotten so many emails from people saying, please don't take us back to school, whether they're families or staff. I've gotten some emails saying, take us back, take us back. This is a time when we can't operate by fear. We have to operate rationally, but we also have to, at the same time, understand how people are feeling. So I just want to thank you, Freya, for acknowledging that this was a difficult decision. It weighed on us. Every one of us, in whatever role we play, have been thinking, oh my God, what does this look like going back? Do we feel safe? Can we do it? I feel really badly for colleagues who have retired early because they thought, I just can't do it. So I just want to thank the board, and I want to thank the public, and I want to thank our staff for understanding that there are no quick, easy fixes, and that we're all trying to make sense of this. So thank you, Freya, for giving us pause and appreciating the fact that we know how hard this is for everybody.
Thank you. I think we're to a point where for this item, we can vote. And so we'll do the round robin again. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Sophia? I see you, but I didn't hear you.
Sorry, just to clarify, we're voting to accept the financial update and to accept the proposal to start back on campus in phase 3 no later than October 16th, correct?
Yes.
Okay, before aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette?
Aye.
And Caroline?
Aye.
5 + 1. Motion passes. This brings us to 5B, adoption of resolution 2720, appointing Measure M Citizens Bond Oversight Committee as advisory committee for Measure I parcel tax.
Members of the board, President Hines, we do have a Measure M, and we have also a new parcel tax. And what we're asking is a resolution to make sure that we can have the same members that are currently serving in that committee to continue to perform those functions. And that's what this item is about, to have a resolution and your approval of this committee to take those functions.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Sophia. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Freya. Do we have any questions about this motion?
I'd just like to make a comment that I like to always make when we talk about the different measures, Measure M, Measure I. Want to thank our community for the support that they've given the school district over the last 10 years. It's been really instrumental in moving forward. I want to thank all the folks who voted for it and all of the people who've worked really hard on all of these different campaigns. It's been a really important part of this district. So we do this for Measure M. We're required to have a citizen oversight committee. We've always in our parcel taxes voluntarily put one in to reassure the public that we are spending your funds in a way that is in accord with the parcel tax language and the bond language. So I just want to thank everybody for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that acknowledgement, Freya. Other questions? I think we can go to vote. Aye. Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette? Lizette?
Sorry, you didn't hear me. Aye.
Thank you. Sorry, sometimes it's soft. Caroline?
Aye.
Motion passes 5 + 1. This brings us to item 5C, approval of tentative agreement on MOU on return to school.
So I will speak to this, and I will try to do it briefly. The cover memo says it all. CUTA and CUSD bargaining representatives have met over the past few weeks during the summer to negotiate and reach a tentative agreement on an MOU that outlines the legal protections and the contractual requirements entailed in the return to school using remote learning. It dovetails and aligns with Senate Bill 98. I greatly respect CUTA for recognizing that it has to use that as sort of a core principle engagement. And you've heard in Sean Reardon's comments and in Kathleen Wall as chief negotiator, her helping frame this agreement. And with the teachers agreeing to the MOU yesterday, everybody has signed on to say, we know there's a job to do. We know what the state requires of us. We know what we owe our students, and we're going to work toward that. And we all have to work together to achieve that. So Staff present this MOU tonight to the board for their approval in full transparency, and I told the board in closed session I would do this as part of our negotiations discussion that was allowable under the Brown Act. In full transparency, the board saw this as soon as the TA was created on Sunday night and shared with teachers, because those are the two parties to the MOU. We did not share it with the public in full transparency because I was trying to show deference to the process of CUTA and let them vote on it, so it did not appear that I was negotiating in public or forcing their hand. Had they not approved the MOU yesterday, I would have pulled this item from the board. I just want to make sure my choreography, my intent, my goal and aim is very clear on that. We think that is important for us to establish a positive working relationship with our partners and the people who are in our classrooms doing the work. Let's be real. So this MOU was not posted in advance out of deference to CUTA's process with first securing their agreement with our membership, but the MOU is provided tonight in full to the board and public for review on the night of the governing board meeting, because they did take action yesterday. Again, the Brown Act does not allow us, after our posting period of 72 hours before the board meeting, to then provide any materials until we get to the meeting. So tonight, during closed session, I asked Rosie to post the MOU. Full disclosure, the board had already seen it because they are the second party along with CUTA. We have discussed this in negotiation sessions in closed session this week with the board. And so I will take any questions, or if the board wants to like ask any questions so that we can share with public sort of what the MOU is about, but I don't want to read the MOU. It would take me 20 minutes. I'm known to be a fast talker, but I'm not that fast to talk.
No comments, just a big thanks to both parties for such a great collaboration to come to a great plan moving forward.
Kim, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the MOU on return to school?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lizette. And again, I want to express my gratitude to Dr. McFetridge and to our union representatives. I know Kathleen Wall was instrumental in working literally through the weekend. There's, in reality, in running a school district, that so much goes on behind the scenes, and it's not just 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I just want to acknowledge that heavy lifting. So with that, we can vote. I will say aye. Freya?
Aye.
Sophia?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Lizette? Thank you, Lizette. And Caroline?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 5+1. This brings us to 5D. This was the item that was pulled off of consent, and I look to Dr. McFetridge to help us lead the conversation here.
Yeah, this was a specific personnel action that we were advised needed to have board action taken tonight, just for the sake of all parties. Mr. Owens, if you are there and you want to speak to it in specific, but I've discussed this with the board also, as far as a personnel action, as is allowable under closed session discussion also. But Mr. Owens, do you want to speak to it, or do you feel like it's apparent? Maybe I'll speak to it.
Sure, go ahead.
No, you go, Jason, you go.
Sure. Basically, we have a teacher that was offered a contract based on a California address, and we have learned that that person does not reside in the state of California and has asked us if they could teach from a different state. And so we unfortunately cannot offer employment on that basis, and I'm asking the board to please deny the contract.
So let me get this. So the motion I am asking for is a motion to deny this contract for this item. Is that correct? Okay, do I have
please
someone to make this motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Lizette. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Freya. And we'll go to vote. Aye, Freya,
Aye.
Sophia,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Lizette,
Aye.
Caroline.
Aye.
Motion passes 5+1.
Thank you.
Very much. Upcoming events, August 17 is first day of school, so good luck all teachers and students. And September 10th is our next regular governing board meeting. With that, I want to thank everyone for being efficient tonight and covering so much ground. I think this was really valuable for parents and teachers and everyone listening. So thank you, everyone, for your contributions. Dr. McFetrich, do you have something else?
No, thank you so much to all of you for working together in this way. And again, I just want to voice my appreciation for our CUTA partners. I know we will be talking with CSEA partners also. And I just want to thank everybody for their work this week coming back to school. I want to thank Leticia and Jesus and Jason and all involved in the opening school steering committee. To all my brothers and sisters, todas mis relaciones, thank you so much for sticking through this, and we will persevere and we will triumph.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to end the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Aye, Freya,
Aye.
Sophia,
Aye.
Mary Beth,
Aye.
Lizette,
Aye.
Caroline,
Aye.
and thank you. With that, the meeting has come to a close. Thank you all.
Yeah.